Good evening. I will call to order our March 15th, 2022 Planning Commission regular meeting. We do have a quorum of members present. Commissioners Zarabi, Stewart, Ainsworth, Johnston are present, and Vice Chair Lawrence is absent. I would like to remind all planning commissioners to please turn on your microphone to speak. If we forget, I will ask that we please have staff remind us so that our voices are captured for the minutes. In addition, before speaking, I will recognize you first as the chair. This follows proper procedures, but also ensures the minutes reflect who is speaking. The first item that we have is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Stewart. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Zarabi. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Tonight, we have two sets of minutes to approve, the January 18, 2022 regular meeting and our February 22, 2022 work session. Did anyone have any proposed changes? I think we agreed that we were good. If not, do I have a motion to approve both sets of minutes?
I was not present, Madam Chairwoman, for the work session, so
Okay.
I'll motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnston. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Stewart. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, and the motion passes. Tonight, we have 3 public hearings. Last month, the Planning Commission held work sessions on these items. Anyone who wishes to speak on these items may sign in and speak for 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record. Our first public hearing is Zoning Text Amendment 2022-597, Batch Zoning Ordinance Text Amendment. Town Council recently initiated a zoning ordinance text amendment to make changes that would clarify conflicting sections, fix incorrect references, and provide flexibility for businesses. Kelly, the zoning administrator, will give a presentation.
Good evening, Planning Commission. So today I'm going to talk to you about the Batch Text Amendment 2022-597. We discussed this at the work session last month. As soon as I figure out how to get this to work. Okay. Town Council initiated this text amendment back in January of this year. As the chair has noted, it is primarily to make a few amendments to fix conflicting sentences, fix some typos, and to make some changes that reflect standard business practices arising out of COVID-19. Last month at our work session, we discussed a number of different things. I went ahead and revised the first section regarding state and federal exemptions to make it even clearer that those sections are as just referenced to the federal and state codes, not exempting all state and federal projects. Here is the table overview going over every single text amendment. We've got One in Article 2-3 exemptions, those are adding state and federal projects as they refer to in their respective state and federal codes. And the Article 2-13, that is specifically to corner lots, clarifying frontages by adding a term primary and secondary front and a graphic to make it easy for the public and staff to explain how setbacks apply and how yards apply to those lots. 2-18 allows for HVAC to encroach within 5 feet of a side and rear property line. That is how it's standardly interpreted by staff, but this codifies it in the ordinance. 2-19 is fences and yards. That changes some of the language to match those corner lots, as well as adds an option to apply for a waiver as part of a special use permit. So if you want a variance and a fence, you could still apply for it, but if you are applying for a special use permit, you could request an additional fence height for screening or security purposes. Article 3, under the central business district, we are adding home occupation as by right, since that is not currently allowed. If you live and work in the central business district, you cannot have a home occupation business license. You have to actually be in a commercial space to do so. Article 6, signs. We are adding a section to allow for off-street signs within parking spaces. We have them around town. They're typically permitted as temporary. You might see these mainly as your pick-up to-go signs so that they can direct traffic to where they need to go in order to get their orders, but I don't have a way of permitting those signs on a permanent basis, and the council's exemptions are expiring soon. Article 7, under parking, we are adding the option for town council to waive parking requirements. This would run through the process like a special use permit, and Planning Commission and Town Council could request any of the documents that they need for the applicant to show and prove that that waiver is required. The second section allows for us to request a parking study for residential uses in the central business district to ensure that safety and need is met. Article 9 is where it's mainly associated with the mixed-use regulations. These are things that either typos or were missed as part of the approvals for it. So it's removing a sentence so that the mixed-use permissions under the commercial district apply to mixed-use buildings as well as residential-only structures. Adds phasing, fixes a typo regarding the acreage to match what's in the section above, and also adds some additional modifications through the special use permit to better fit the projects. Article 11 is affixing a word change under signs just to match the language that is in Article 6 for it, as well as combining two sections so that there's fewer sections we need to go look at to verify signs. The last changes are basically fixing a reference to DPOR. It's an incorrect acronym right now, so we're fixing that typo. Those are all of the text amendments, and here are the suggested motions for you. If you've got questions on any specific text, let me know. We've got those as backup slides as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Does
you.
anyone have any question for Kelly before we open the public hearing? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I will open the public hearing for zoning text amendment 2022-597, public hearing on batch zoning ordinance text amendments at 7:09. Is there anyone here who would like to speak for or against?
Nobody is signed up to speak.
Thank you very much. No one is here to speak. No one wishes to speak, so I will close the public hearing at 7:09. Did we have any questions of staff or We comfortable moving forward? Yes. Okay. We do have some suggested motions, which you have been provided with. I would entertain a motion from any of the commissioners.
Madam Chairwoman, I move that the Planning Commission recommend approval of zoning text amendment 2022-597 as drafted.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Zarabi. Do I have a second to his motion?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Stewart. Is there any discussion required? No? If not, I will call the vote. All in favor of approving the zoning text amendment 2022-597 as presented, raise your right hand. Thank you very much. All in favor? Okay. Moving on to our second public hearing, which is zoning text amendment 2020-04. Special use permit for large uses in public, semi-public district. The town council initiated a zoning ordinance text amendment in March 10, 2020 to require within the public, semi-public district a special use permit for large uses to help address concerns regarding traffic, noise, lighting, water, and sewer needs, as well as police and emergency services and stormwater management controls. Kelly will be returning to make another presentation.
Hello again. So this is zoning text amendment 2020-04. The primary focus on this text amendment is to amend the public, semi-public district to require a special use permit for larger uses in the district in order to address concerns regarding traffic, noise, stormwater management, public services. Council did initiate this 2 years ago, March 2020. Last month, we held a work session with the Planning Commission. In order to make it clear, one of the concerns brought up was whether or not nursing homes and clinics would be changed. I moved those uses to their own line to make it very clear that they remain by right and that this change only applies to schools and hospitals. Denise, if you could. That's okay, thank you. So specifically what will happen with this text amendment is that any new facilities or expansions over 10,000 square feet would require a special use permit to go before our Planning Commission and Town Council, 10,000 square feet being the number under our stormwater management, for triggering stormwater management controls. Next one. The reason being mainly to help address traffic congestion, the large parking needs, noise, lighting, glare, all of those things that can occur from these large uses. This will give Town Council and Planning Commission an additional option to kind of look at those concerns before these large additions occur and help mitigate any of the potential impacts. Here's the motions. And again, if you've got any questions, I've got the text itself in the red line.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Did anyone have any questions for Kelly before I open the public hearing? Okay.
Madam Chairwoman, I have one question. Ms. Markin, I have a question about the 10,000 square feet. Now, let's assuming that an applicant or a lot undergoes an addition that's beyond that. Is that each time an application is submitted, do we have a sort of a maximum number in mind by which they no longer are able to qualify for that waiver?
So it would be a special use permit, and when a special use permit goes before you, you would recommend conditions on that special use permit. Council would then approve or deny the request with conditions. Typically, once we have a special use permit on a property, it is conditioned as shown, and then if they want to amend it, they have to then amend the special use permit. But that would be a condition that could be made on the property.
So potentially, one structure could see multiple applications over a period of time
Yes,
spread out, and as long as they stay under 10,000 square feet, they can do those modifications by right?
yes, so long as they were under 10,000 square feet at a time. At some point, they would probably trigger a site plan at a minimum, but yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Kelly? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I will open the public hearing, zoning text amendment 2020-04, special use permit for large uses in public, semi-public district. I will open the public hearing at 7:16. If there is anyone here who wishes to speak for or against this application, the zoning text amendment.
Madam Chair, nobody is on it.
Thank you very much. So with no one speaking, I will then close the public hearing at 7:16. Did anyone have any further questions? Okay. I would then request that a motion is made for zoning text amendment 2020-04.
Madam Chairwoman, I move that the town council, pardon me, I move that the planning commission recommend approval of ZOTA 2020-04 as drafted.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Stewart, do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Commissioner Ainsworth. Is there any discussion on this? Okay. If not, I will call the vote. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. We are all in favor, everyone in agreement. So this will pass and go on to town council. Okay, moving on to our third public hearing. This is a project review for the comprehensive plan consistency for draft fiscal year 23-28 capital improvement plan. The Planning Commission reviews draft land use projects, which in this case is transportation projects, not previously considered in adopted plans and documents for consistency with Plan Warrenton 2040. These projects are then to be included in the draft capital improvement plan fiscal year 23-28 and budget process for town council's consideration. All projects are in draft form with cost, fiscal year, and fund allocations subject to change through the town council public hearing and CIP adoption process. The full draft CIP is made available April 1st. Denise Harris, Planning Manager, will now give us a presentation.
Good evening. Since most people are fairly familiar with this, I'm going to go kind of quickly through the beginning of it. But basically, a CIP is the jurisdiction's long-range planning for large capital projects. It is drafted annually for 5 years out, with the first year, in this case fiscal year 23, being included in the budget cycle. The out years serve as placeholders for long-term budgeting needs, financial planning, grants, and potential proffers. The role of the Planning Commission, as we've been moving more and more towards best practices each year, is to review land use projects as proposed that have not been previously considered in adopted plans and policies. The projects before you are in draft form. They are subject to change as the draft of the CIP is further pulled together in terms of their timing, their costs, and the types of funding that may be used for them. And then, as Madam Chairwoman indicated, the full draft of the CIP is considered as part of the Town Council budgeting process, and it will be available April 1st as they proceed through their work sessions and their own public hearing. So before you are 9 transportation projects, which you have reviewed in the past before, but sometimes they have a little more detail related to them, which I will go through. But to take a step back, your new comprehensive plan 2040 laid out a number of vision statements for intermodal safety and enhancing the transportation traveling experience, making the town more livable, increasing the quality of life, increasing the linkages and connectivity around the town. In addition, you have in your comp plan adopted a future transportation land use map that you see here, and a number of the intersections have red circles on them for spot improvements, which you have in your project sheets now coming forward. So the first set of projects that you're looking at are actually the projects that are part of what's called the VDOT pipeline projects. This is a study that is being undergone by VDOT right now. Town Council has been briefed on it at key parts since August as the consultant team works their way through it. They just concluded a public outreach session where they received over 500 comments for preferred options on various intersections. And last Tuesday, the Town Council did ask staff to proceed with applying for pre-applications for Smart Scale, which would be, if successful, 100% funding of a number of these projects. So we wanted to include them because the more details are coming out specific to what the public has said that they prefer in these intersections, and that would be then included in the CIP and future Smart Scale projects. So the first one up is Blackwell Road and Lee Highway, and this is in the Newtown Character District. You see that within the comp plan, it has specifically stated that we're looking for innovative solutions along Lee Highway to incorporate roundabouts and raised intersections. The comp plan further has this intersection in the matrix of near-term recommendations to be looked at, and it would be subject to a VDOT Smart Scale grant. The next project contained within this VDOT pipeline study is the Broadview Lee Highway Winchester Street roundabout. This is something that actually was previously submitted for Smart Scale as well. It was not successful in the last round. We are hopeful that perhaps it will do better this round. Again, this project is within that near-term recommendation list and is to be moved forward for VDOT Smart Scale grant. The next project we fondly call the Peanut. It is a roundabout that works as a system with these other two along the corridor with Broadview and Lee Highway. It is in the near-term recommendations, but it's listed as Roebling Street. Within the last year, that has been renamed to Broadview, so it gets a little confusing, but because of the way the streets come together there, it is actually Broadview, so that's why it's listed as Broadview Lee Highway, but in your chart in the comp plan, it's called Roebling. And then also as part of that transportation system, you have the Bear Wallow Broadview project, which since that area is subject to hopefully redevelopment, It's something that is important to keep in the documents so that as areas start to redevelop, we can make sure that we're having conversations with VDOT and potential redevelopment companies about how we ensure that intersection remains safe and moving of different corridors for transportation. It's also included in that near-term recommendation chart. The signal at Gold Cup is part of the Experience Broadview Character District. While it's not specifically called out, it is something that as Broadview has been reimagined, it is being planned during the safety improvements to be able to accommodate a signal there in the future. It is something that the community has asked for many times, but it's not warranted yet through the VDOT standards. When that corner redevelops, we do anticipate that it will trip the warrants for a future signal at Gold Cup. Further, the comp plan goes on to state that you're looking for ways to do access management and to prioritize safety. And we move to the Old Town Character District. The comp plan does specifically call out a structured parking garage to help activate the surface parking lots that we currently have. And this is contained in your CIP in a general nature. But if the town was to, in the future, start to pursue potential P3 recommendations to get more details on this type of idea, it allows for a conversation to take place as long as it's in the CIP. The Main Street project is also in the Old Town Character District. This is something that is subject to VDOT revenue sharing grants that have already been awarded. It is in the near-term recommendations. And these, when the revenue sharing funds become available, the town will be working with the community to further refine the project. And then continuing along the corridor, you have your Walker Drive East Lee project in the Old Town Character District. This is in here again in the near-term solutions. At this time, VDOT has indicated that they would do a study from the Falmouth Street intersection to the Metz Road meeting with the interchange so that they can look at that transportation system from Route 29, the interchanges coming on and off of Route 29, through Metz Road, through Walker Drive, and then through Falmouth Street. So this is in here as an innovative design that our transportation consultants came up with last fall that would allow for a single roundabout. And then if a time came, anytime in the future, that would require for a second component, a second lane to be added, that's what you see in the orange. But again, this is something that would be studied as part of the VDOT study in the upcoming year. And then the Falmouth East Lee intersection, again, is something that is in the comp plan as a proposed project and in the future land use map for the transportation projects as a spot improvement for that intersection. And it would, again, be included for the full corridor and VDOT study as what would be most appropriate and helpful in that location. So with that, you have before you a draft resolution that lists these projects and basically stating that if the Planning Commission finds them in conformance with the comprehensive plan and has consistency with it, and then the full CIP will be made available April 1st with Town Council.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. Did anyone have any questions for her before we open the public hearing? Okay. So So I will open the public hearing for the comprehensive plan consistency for draft fiscal year 23-28 CIP at 7:30. Anyone who wishes to speak for or against this, please rush to the podium now. State your name and address.
I'm able to keep these on or off. They're new progressives, and I get dizzy going back and forth on them. So, my name is David Norden, and I live at 318 Falmouth Street. Appreciate the opportunity to speak about this. As mentioned, many, if not most, of the items that are in this document for you all tonight were part of a public hearing with the town council at the VDOT revenue sharing hearings. And while I am not necessarily a proponent of what I feel like is turning Main Street into Disneyland, what I'm really here to ask you to consider pulling from this is the roundabout at Falmouth and Lee Street. During that public hearing, as I remember it, there was no one in support, and there were a lot of people here that came to speak against that project. As far as I'm concerned, it would be the greatest waste of $7 million this body could ever put forward. There is no need for improvements to that interchange. There have been no accidents there since the four-way stop was put in. I live 4 doors up the street and have for the last 20 years. And before the four-way stop was put in, it was a difficult intersection with people flying down the hill and those trying to get through Lee Street, you know, having to be the only ones that waited. Since the four-way stop came in, the intersection works beautifully. There are ways we can improve walkability where people could not have all of those lanes to get across at one time. We could extend the median for a couple $1,000 if we feel like it's difficult for people to negotiate walking. We walk through that intersection all the time, and so did my daughters growing up. I know of no accidents that have happened there, and I don't know why we would intrude in the historic district, take property away from the historic houses, the yards that are there, because this cannot happen without taking land from people. I don't know why it is up for conversation. I really don't. And I feel like it's an end run around the citizens again by the town council and staff, and they're using you all to justify it by sending it back to them saying, oh yeah, this should be part of the comprehensive plan. It really shouldn't. I don't think it deserves to be in here. I don't know that you all have the ability to take one project out of this and say it shouldn't move forward, but I would ask you to consider at least doing that, if you would, please. It says here, one of your recitals is, the projects put forward are beneficial to the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of the town of Warrenton. And I would argue there is nothing about spending $7 million on that interchange that is going to improve the health, safety, and welfare of the town of Warrenton, but it will hurt our neighborhood and the historic district at that intersection. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Norden. If there's no one else who will be speaking, I will then close the public hearing at 7:34. Does anyone have any questions for staff or comments?
I was not part of that. I did not see that public hearing he was talking about. If somebody could fill me in some of the overview of what happened there that he was talking about.
Town council discussed this specific intersection and chose not to put it forward for smart scale funding, if I'm correct. Revenue sharing. But if I also understand correctly, this is part of a larger project that VDOT is doing on that entire stretch between the exit from 29 to Metz, to Walker Drive, to Falmouth. Those three intersections are being studied not by us, but by VDOT independently of us. So I don't know that I'm not going to speak for anyone else here, but I will speak for Vice Chair Lawrence, who feels the way you do about this same project. So I would be happy to take the funding, if it goes there, for the streetlight at Gold Cup. I'll do some horse trading. Was there anything else that you?
Yeah, so you're absolutely correct
Yeah.
that the result of last fall's conversations was that VDOT will be stepping forward and
Right.
studying this corridor. Once they do that, I imagine we will see new proposals, new public outreach, new potential designs for the corridor to see how it works in conjunction. So it's important to remember that these are placeholders for out years, and the Planning Commission is just determining if it's consistent with the comp plan. So I would suggest that it's town council that can change the project sheets. It says illustrative only because that's the only picture that we have to date from previous studies that have been done there, but it can, be swapped out with a picture of just the intersection. But it's to determine that intersection improvement, as identified as a spot improvement in the comp plan going back 25 years, is something that should be looked at in conjunction with the other corridors.
I have a couple of, I guess, comments and probably more comments. I'm not sure any questions at this point. I'm all in favor of the VDOT and any entity that doesn't cost the taxpayers of Warrenton to do a thorough evaluation of how our transportation corridors move in and around Warrenton. I mean, based on this presentation pertaining to safety improvements with the Lee Street and Falmouth withstanding, I'm envisioning 3, 4, 5, 6 consecutive roundabouts within a stretch of Blackwell Road to Roebling Street, if all get funded and are ultimately utilized. I cannot envision at a time that we are adding more volume and vehicular traffic to and through Warrenton, that it will be successful to have 5 or 6 roundabouts and within a stretch of less than a mile, half a mile probably. So I think, a good idea taken to an access is my opinion on it. In terms of Mr. Norton's comments about that intersection, which I frequently travel, my feeling is, and maybe the staff can correct me if I'm wrong on that, VDOT can make their recommendation on that project and the project along Lee Street, Metz, but I don't feel, and I could be wrong, that we have any pressure or we're under obligation to accept the recommendation. Am I correct on that?
Well, the goal would be that they would work in partnership with us in the community with public outreach.
Right.
So, they do tend to be the experts in terms of how to get the safety improvements in place, but for example, the Lee Highway study, they did get 500 responses to a myriad of proposals that were put forward. So, but you are right, it is 100% the town that decides whether they're going to put forward the grants.
Yeah, I mean, you know, honestly, I think others probably feel differently. You know, oftentimes I've seen the public output and the participation about certain projects, including our Warrenton Comp Plan 2040, which were rejected as some form of special interest. So I think certainly governance by referendum is not my favorite approach to finding solutions, but, you know, as I said, I think it would be important to see the plan, but I agree. I think it functions as it does, not only really for the benefit of the residents there, but for the rest of us that are traveling that corridor. I don't, really see any particular need to alter that. But on the other hand, I do feel that this general proposal, as it stands, draft, is a little excessive to my vision of a small rural town. And I'll leave it at that, Madam Chairwoman. Thank you for the time.
Commissioner Johnston, did you have any questions or comments?
No, ma'am.
Okay, well, then I will,
I have a question. So are these all accepted and recommended in a group, and that's the only option?
You are determining if they are consistent with the comprehensive plan. It's up to town council whether or not they're going to include them in the CIP and the budget.
Oh, I think the next question is are we going to be recommending this as a group, as a bunch, or can we say can we itemize it?
We can amend the resolution if you would like to.
but again, we're just determining whether or not these are in compliance with the comprehensive plan, not whether we think they're necessary or not necessary, or should be funded or not funded. It really is just more of an administrative push through, that we feel or we don't feel that they are in compliance.
If it makes the planning commission more comfortable, we can swap out the picture, if that's the concern.
To be just a four-way stop?
Just to make it, it's an intersection improvement.
Right.
It's gonna be studied. It's not to be funded in the upcoming fiscal year, so
No.
this is an
Right.
an outplaced thing that will be studied and examined further in the future.
Well, I didn't have as much of a close-in look as the comprehensive plan was going through, and I had not heard the concerns. I think the overall comprehensive plan is intended ultimately to improve the livability for everybody, and it sounds like it's not really, at least that component's not really meeting that objective.
I don't know that that's for us to determine. Meaning that, is this in compliance? I mean, is this what we would look at?
I think we're looking at the specific
Right.
plan
Right.
when they're not looking at the plan the plan we're looking at is just the placeholder.
Right.
And what she's saying is that it's just a study that's going to be done.
Yes.
And people are, I guess, jumping ahead, looking at this, and they shouldn't be.
So we can back up. Previously, in comp plans, it called for a roundabout there.
Mhm.
It was brought forward and studied a number of years ago. That's where that picture came from. It was a study that was done. It was applied for through what's called HSIP grants, which is part of the Highway Safety Improvement Program. These are all things that town council brought forward and submitted, and it wasn't successful in being funded. So it was brought back before town council this fall, again, for another round of potential funding. And it was at that time that the community came out and said, we might have issues with the idea of a roundabout there. It had previously been accepted, and this time it wasn't. So the town council said, we're gonna put a pin in the idea, we're not gonna submit it this time. However, VDOT was in the room, and they agreed to do a study of the entire corridor.
And that study could say that it's not warranted.
It could.
Yeah.
VDOT did the original study in
Right.
2017, I think it was.
But one of the other things we want to look at in this study is also the walkability component of it, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
Mhm. We can,
Sorry if I'm slow.
No,
So we're just recommending this gets a further study.
I'm sorry?
We're just recommending that all of these get a further study, not that they implement or get into a
No,
list that's in place.
you're looking at these projects to determine if they are in conformance with the comprehensive plan. That's all. It's town council's job to look at if they actually are included in the CIP, not included if they're programmed for funding and when they're programmed for funding.
I'm inclined to think that that one line item is not in conformance with the comprehensive plan due to the public issues.
Okay. It is in the comprehensive plan as a spot improvement in multiple locations, specifically listed.
so I would say that let's call for a motion and a second.
One last thing, though. He did call for something else other than a roundabout. So that would have to be part of the study for them to do that, though. We don't agree, we all agree that the town doesn't want the roundabout, and we agree with him. But he also said a great idea of extend the median to allow for better walkability. But for them to do that, that has to be part of the study.
Well, as I understand it, the study would be looking at a number of options for that intersection, not just simply whether a roundabout there is appropriate.
I fully
It's
agree.
looking at it as a system.
Yes.
And like I said, we can swap the picture out and just make it the intersection spot improvement as part of the long-term study. That's why, part of the reason that we're having these conversations is, that it is all in draft form until April
Right.
1st. So we can swap that out.
Now, us as the planning commission, when this comes down to where it's actually being put on paper for these plans, are we gonna have a say in that for the one that, for the round, if they say, oh, we want a roundabout in there, are we gonna have a say in that?
The community will
Right,
absolutely,
public-
yeah.
as a person, yes,
Okay.
not as a body. Yes. Which, I mean, we can also, talk to council when this comes up.
Sorry, I'm a little confused again. So if these are already in the comprehensive plan, why are we recommending that they're in conformance with the comprehensive plan?
Well, that's a little bit of the do loop that we were talking about earlier.
It's the any new project in the CIP would need to go before our review to ensure that it's in conformance with the comprehensive plan, if it's a land use issue, and in this case it is.
But this is an important conversation to
Yeah,
say,
right.
if you have issues with this one particular project sheet, that you find the spot improvement and the fact that it's gonna be studied as in conformance with the comp plan, then we can work on that draft project sheet to update it, revise it, take the picture out, and say, this is part of a study.
And if we recommend all these, that's what is the next step?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if anyone would like to make a motion with that verbiage.
I'll make a motion to recommend approving with that verbiage.
Thank you, Commissioner Ainsworth. Do I have a second?
Awesome.
Thank you.
Point of order. I need you to actually
Oh.
state the motion
Okay.
so that we know what everyone's agreeing to.
I move that the planning commission adopt the resolution finding consistency with the transportation project and capital improvement as submitted in the plan of Warrenton, with the exception of the line item for the traffic improvements at Falmouth and East Lee Street to be further studied
And picture.
and
Mhm.
pictured. Improvement.
Thank you. Did I have a second?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. Commissioner Zarabi. Do we have any further discussion? Okay, I will call for a vote. All in favor of this motion with the amendment, please raise your right hand. Thank you. We are all in favor with the amendment per Commissioner Ainsworth. Thank you. Okay, moving on, comments from the commission. Does anyone have anything? No? So as of right now, we will not be meeting next Tuesday. Do I need a motion to remove that from the calendar? No? Okay. Comments from staff? Do you have anything?
Thank you, members of the commission. Just to give you an update, I think Planet Fitness opened today. Also, is it tomorrow?
That's what my wife says.
Okay. It's very close. Also, Glory Days is having a little bit of trouble with getting in some kitchen equipment. We were looking to open up end of March here, actually maybe pushed in the beginning of April, as soon as possible. Also, last week, I'm sure you heard that the town council approved the rollout Warrenton, option B, which would be more of a permanent kind of not closures permanently, but more permanent blocks or road blocks, which would be magnetic bollards, starting here at Hotel Street, or Hotel Street moving down, or Court Street moving down towards 3rd Street. In conjunction with that, it would be Friday night, the closure would start Friday night and then run through most of Saturday. Then they would open the street back up either Saturday night, late, 10 o'clock, or Sunday morning. So in conjunction with that, we're looking to move the farmer's market out here Saturday from 8 to 12 as well, up on the main street. Happy to answer any questions.
Bowling alley?
So I've heard that they're still moving forward. They have a demolition permit in hand. They haven't started the demolition yet. I'm not sure if it's for financial reasons, but they are still planning on moving forward with the bowling alley.
People ask. I just thought I would ask.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone have any questions for Rob? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Commissioner Zarabi at 7:55. Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Johnston, all in favor? Aye, aye?
Aye.
Aye, aye.
Aye.
Okay, meeting adjourned at 7:55.